something like ba-da-doo, a-do-do-do, something like, and I stood in cold and scared on top of Blue Hill.
Barney Hodges, you drink like you did when you were at school. Paul slapped my back and I coughed up the beer. I walked towards the toilets. He threw a bag of nuts at my head. In front of the urinal, I thought back 10 years ago to my high school graduation ceremony. That was the last time I had seen Paul. When his name was called, he approached the stage in a wheelchair he had borrowed from a shopping centre. He wheeled himself along and frowned at the 2 stairs in front of him. The headmaster turned steaming beetroot red as parents began shaking their heads and muttered at the poor arrangements made for the school kids with disabilities. Paul pretended to cry, then reversed out of a hole, knocking over 2 presentation tables. Paul Slayer, the boy that did what he wanted, to me, to others, whatever pleased him. I washed my hands and wondered if Paul had ever thought about our times together. I was jealous of Paul's guts. Everything I'd done was for typeface bold on my CV. I was shocked to receive my first ever email from him. Apparently he traveled the world and now he wants to throw nuts at my head and get me drunk. I returned to the bar and my blood ran cold. Paul was typing on my phone with a massive smile on his face. I ran over and he hit me hard in the groin. I went down to the floor in a heap. Oh. Barney Hodges, you're as slow as ever. He took some money from my wallet, announced it was my round. Again. I hurried along and tried unlocking my phone, but he changed the password. Paul, this isn't funny. I use this phone for work. Come on, we're not at school anymore. He raised his hands in an innocent gesture. Barney, have I ever done anything to hurt your career? Now put your phone away. You can worry about that silly Facebook status later. I was about to protest, but Paul shut me down with a firm look. Like a pet dog gone nasty when it has a bone. I felt we were in the playground and I had tried to back out of one of his ridiculously stupid pranks and threatened to tell the teacher what he had done. They called time and we stumbled out. Paul had his arms around me tightly and was confessing. Apparently, one night at camp, he slept with a girl that I had fawned over for years. Really? I asked. I may have been drunk, but I'm not as gullible as I was before when Paul had told me that laxatives make you swim faster. He patted my shoulder solemnly. You slept with Abigail Porter, but... He had a smug look on his face which confirmed he was not lying. I didn't want to tell you at the time, Barney. You would have gone all emotional again. I pushed his arm off. I don't believe you. Paul started laughing again. You remember? You're the only friend who believes that a midnight feast actually involves eating a feast. He let out a massive howl, big and loud. We were playing strip poker. Everyone was half naked except for you in your 50 layers. I told you to go back to get some crackers with the weed in. Paul arched his back, his laugh booming. I tried to recall what happened that night. I had gone back to our tent to look for a weed, but never found it. Paul's bag was completely empty. Barney Hodges, you're the daftest man I've ever met. Who would put weed in a cracker? I mean, how is that even possible? Come on, let's go back to school. Well, Paul was driving. He was drunk, but to my protests, as usual, were futile. I leaned my head against the window as he talked, his voice still as childish and excitable as decades before. He was full of stories and escapades, usually at my expense. Fire alarms he had set off after gluing my trousers to a stool. The glitter on the blades of a ceiling fan above my desk. The rumors I had tried to kiss a male lab assistant. Yeah. He admitted to them, and he laughed louder and louder. Oh. By 3 a.m., we were at our old school. Deserted school campus. It seemed to be about a quarter of the size it was before. We climbed the gates, and as I landed, he hit me in the crotch again. And then he sprinted to the main building. I caught up with him on the roof. It was high up. It was beautiful. Paul sat down on the edge and urged me to join him. We swung our feet, our shoes 6 sizes bigger than they were a decade before when we first met, when he had pushed me in the canteen. Silence drifted in, and we stared at our old playground. Seizing what seemed to be a serious moment in his immature persona, I plucked up the courage to ask him why he wanted to hang out with me, of all people. His eyes moistened. Barney, he said, pinched me on the arm painfully. You never stopped me from having fun. Please don't think I'm not grateful for that. I felt a lump rise in my throat. Did he finally want to be friends? He reached for my phone and unlocked it. He took a photo of us right there. The flash scorched our skin to a youthful pallor. Then my old school bully stood up and yelled, "Abigail Porter! What? A woman!" His voice echoed around the walls, and I looked around nervously to see if there was any security guards coming. I heard a shuffle, and when I turned back, Paul was already off in the air. An elegant, beautiful, executed swan dive off the edge of school. I tried to reach out for him, but I was too late. And he knew that. A moment later, I looked down at his awkward body, in the shape of the pool of blood that expanded around him. I called the ambulance, even though it was pointless. I clambered down the roof and approached his useless body. My phone beeped, and I looked at the dazzling screen and swiped it. And it was taking me to my Facebook account. Paul's words, like well-articulated graffiti, filled my status. I, Barney Hodges, really fancy Abigail Porter. She has enormous breasts that are very succulent. I still wet the bed and collect children's toys, which I play with on Sundays. The best person I know is Paul Slayer. He is a legend. I forgive him for all the bad he did to me at school. His penis is bigger than mine. I looked down at his mute corpse. I swear he was still smiling. I read on. It will be Paul Slayer's and I's last night together because he has an inoperable brain tumor and will die very soon. I will miss him. I heard the ambulance sirens. They weren't far away, so I headed to meet them.